Who is that? She's not.
Is this televised?
I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York Executive Committee. Can you please mute your cell phone or BlackBerry? CUNY TV is streaming the public session of this afternoon's meeting of the Board of Trustees Executive Committee. It's also being webcast live at www.cuny.edu/livestream. The public session of this meeting will be available as a podcast within 24 hours and can be accessed via the CUNY website. I would like to welcome both members of the Executive Committee and all other trustees who are present at this meeting. Your participation today is much appreciated. I'll turn now to action items requiring our vote. I'd like to move the approval of the minutes of the Executive Committee meeting of April 4th, 2016. You'll find a copy of the draft minutes for this meeting in your agenda packets. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Are there any discussion or revisions proposed for the minutes? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are adopted. We'll now move to the policy calendar. I'll move the first resolution, which you have at your places, and which you received in advance of today's meeting. It's entitled the Graduate School of Journalism Request for a Naming Resolution. This request will authorize the naming of the Broadcast Center on the third floor of the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism as the Made in New York Broadcast Center for a period of 5 years, coterminous with the duration of programmatic funding provided by the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. May I have a second?
Second.
Let me call on Chancellor Milliken and Dean Sarah Bartlett to talk about this resolution, and then we'll open the item for discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for the board's authority for a naming, and I support it, and I would like to turn it over to Dean Bartlett to give you the details.
Dean?
Thank you. So the opportunity for the journalism school is to train members of the community and ethnic media in New York City in digital technology. They are interested in supporting us for a period of 5 years with a $1 million gift. And we have a professional training unit at the school called CUNY J+. And the goal there is to train working journalists in digital technologies. And they wanted to make sure that this program was accessible to the many hundreds of journalists who work for the smaller mom and pop community and ethnic media in New York City. And in exchange for that, they would like recognition and the naming of the Broadcast Center for the period of time that the programming has been offered for. And they like to call it the Made in New York Broadcast Center, and we were fine with that.
Are there questions for the Chancellor or the Dean? This is very important. The future is digital for journalism, for sure. All right, are you ready for the question? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? That's adopted.
Thank you.
I'll also now move the second resolution, the City University of New York policy on freedom of expression and expressive conduct. This resolution is recommended for placement on the June 27th, 2016 regular Board of Trustees meeting calendar, which will allow for comment on the resolution at the June 20th, 2016 public hearing. So we're not moving the final approval of this. We're moving to put it on the agenda for the full board to discuss and for there to be an opportunity for a public hearing, given that this is a very important subject. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. May I call on Chancellor Milliken followed by General Counsel, Senior Vice Chancellor Rick Schaefer to talk about the resolution, and then we'll open the item for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As members of the board know, there's been considerable discussion over recent months, in particular, not only at CUNY but across the country, about protections of the First Amendment and academic freedom on university campuses, often involving heated political and other discussions. There has been some interest, and CUNY in particular became interested in ensuring that we had a consistent and clear statement about the CUNY policy with regard to these matters, so that there would be uniformity across CUNY. The Faculty Senate, under Trustee Martell's leadership, has taken an active role in this, first by discussing and then endorsing what has become known as the Chicago Statement, developed by the University of Chicago Faculty Committee, which has been endorsed by a number of other universities. Ours, I think, appropriately, is not the Chicago Statement, but is the CUNY Statement, which has had the benefit of work by a task force chaired by the General Counsel, and then extensive comment from both faculty governance and student governance. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the General Counsel for a discussion about the proposed policy statement that you have before you.
Thank you, Chancellor. You have, and I'm sure have read the statement, so I won't go through it in great detail. I think the key to it is the introductory section on general principles, which I think contains a strong and appropriately strong endorsement of freedom of expression and academic freedom in the university context as the fundamental and guiding principle of this policy. It then recognizes two important but very limited limitations on absolute freedom of expression. And then the rest of the policy goes on to spell out in somewhat more detail how that works out in practice. So Section 2, dealing with prohibited conduct, is largely a restatement of the Henderson rules that have governed this university for several decades, and I think gives some useful examples of what falls outside of the protection of free speech. I think having some specific examples is helpful to understand how these general principles play out in the real world. And then the proposed policy goes on to talk about the kinds of activities that are part speech and part conduct that are subject to the normal time, place, and manner restrictions applicable to such activities, and lays out some principles there and some procedures for how local authorities on the college campuses will deal with protests that get out of hand. Then goes on to deal with a few discrete subjects that have come up from time to time with questions such as leafleting and cabling on campuses, and the access by the media to our campuses. And then finally deals with two very important issues: the publication of this policy so that it's there and available for everybody to know what it is, and to make sure that the appropriate people on the campuses are trained in the policy. So that's sort of the view from 10,000 feet, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
This was presented early as a matter of information to the Student Affairs Committee.
That is correct, and yes, I should point out that this has been this policy has been long aborting. The gestation period is much longer than the normal 9 months for human beings, anyway. And we've had extensive input from both the faculty senate and the student senate across the university. After the work of the task force was finished, it's been revised weekly, if not daily, in response to continuing and helpful comments from those two bodies. And I think we've reached a point now where, as far as I can tell, the constituencies most affected by this proposed policy seem to be satisfied.
Professor Martell?
Let me confirm that. There was extensive discussions and cooperative, congenial manner, and we appreciate the modifications that have taken place in the policy over time. So thank you.
Thank you. Joseph?
Yeah, I'd also like to say thank you very much for General Counsel. We've been communicating constantly regarding this back and forth. Even as of last night, we're still discussing it, and we are pleased to say thanks for all the input and thanks for bringing this to our attention early.
I should add, the students were justifiably concerned that this was coming up at the end of the year when they're taking their final exams. And it seems inevitable that some of our most important policies do come up in the final meetings. And although there's been extensive amount of time leading up to this, I certainly understood and sympathized with the students' conundrum. But they pulled through magnificently and got their comments to us in time. And the policy is an improved policy for their input.
Yeah, I want to point out, though, in addition, and I think you made this point earlier, but just an exclamation point now, there was student and faculty, in addition to administrative representation on the task force
Yes, there
throughout
was.
the development of the policy.
That is correct. We had a number of presidents and students and faculty were also represented.
Trustee Beal?
So I will just say that the most compelling line in this document to me is the appropriate response to false or offensive speech is not to prohibit it, but to respond with more speech. And so I assume that that's what this document does, and I applaud you, but I would put that in bold and call it and my only question about that was where when it says that each college, 5.3, it is within the discretion of the educational units of CUNY whether to permit individual and groups and or not members of the university or campus community to have access to such facilities or to give priority to members of the campus community. I just hope that it is understood that that discretion should be even-handed and not for its own political purposes.
Yes, and I think it's quite clear
Yeah.
that is the case.
But I'm going to put that, the appropriate response is going to be.
It says it, but may not remove notices based on their viewpoint in that paragraph. And of course, all of the subsequent paragraphs are governed by the general principles in section 1.
Well, I'm strongly in favor of this, and I think it's very important for us to put out a statement that anticipates some of the issues that have arisen at CUNY and at many other campuses. And I think this set of principles will help us avoid the confusion that has existed at some other campuses. And I think CUNY should be a university where academic freedom and freedom of expression are primary and protected values. Bad speech is to be answered and counted, not prohibited. So I'm strongly in favor of this. Are you ready for the question? Good. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? The principles are adopted. And thank you, Rick, for such an excellent piece of work.
Just a correction there, they're on the agenda for the June.
Oh, yes,
Not-
right.
not
Sorry,
yet
we
adopted.
put this on the agenda. We're not adopting it.
right.
Thank you for the correction. That concludes our public business, so we will now go into an executive session regarding personnel matters. We anticipate that we will reconvene in a public session following the executive session. So I declare this public session adjourned, and we'll go into executive session. We have two resolutions to discuss and possibly vote on. I'll ask Trustee Valerie Beal to present the first one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York approve the appointment of Jose Cruz as the president of Lehman College effective August 15th, 2016, at a compensation to be recommended by the Chancellor to the Board, subject to financial ability. Explanation. The search committee, which I had the pleasure and honor of chairing, at the conclusion of an extensive national search, recommended 4 finalists for the presidency of Lehman College. The Chancellor is recommending Jose Cruz as president. Dr. Cruz is presently Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at California State University Fullerton. He was previously the Vice President, Higher Education Policy and Practice at the Education Trust and Vice President for Student Affairs at the University of Puerto Rico System. Dr. Cruz earned a BS in Electrical Engineering from the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, and an MS and PhD in Electrical Engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology. His research interests are in the areas of optoelectronics, massively parallel computing, image processing, biometrics, VoLP communications, and equity-driven K-12 and higher education policies and practices. His work has been funded by the National Science Foundation and the U.S. Department of Education, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Lumina Foundation, among others. Mr. Chairman, I move the appointment of Dr. Cruz as president of Lehman College.
Thank you. I'd like to second that motion. Is there discussion? If not, are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The appointment is unanimous.
Well, thank you. I want to express my sincere appreciation to Chairman Schmidt, Chancellor Milliken, and the Chair of the Search Committee, Trustee Beal, to the trustees and to the members of the Lehman College campus community that participated in the search, and to Bob, Malay, and Anna from CUNY's Office of Executive Search and Evaluation for all their help. I am truly honored by this appointment and very much look forward to serving as the 3rd president of Lehman College of the City University of New York. I am also humbled by the level of responsibility you have entrusted to me, energized by the opportunity to help advance the noble mission of the City University of New York, and confident that in the years to come, Lehman will expand its influence, increase its relevance, and reach its full potential as an engine of opportunity. And I am confident because of how impressed I am with the faculty, administrators, students, and alumni that I have met thus far. It has been clear from my interactions with them that they are passionate about Lehman's mission, sincere in their aspirations for its future, and committed to living the college's stated values of providing the highest quality education in a caring and supportive environment where respect, integrity, inquiry, creativity, and diversity contribute to individual achievement and the transformation of lives and communities. On a more personal note, my family and I are very excited about our impending move. We will undoubtedly miss the Southern California weather and the company of our friends and colleagues, but we are eager to become New Yorkers and to establish new relationships in what is one of our nation's most resilient, respected, and revered communities, the Bronx. I look forward to working with you, embrace the opportunity to build upon President Fernandez's legacy of leadership, and accept the challenge of leading the difficult but impactful work that lies ahead. Thank you again for your confidence in me. Thank you.
We now have a second resolution to consider. I'd like to call on Vice Chair Philip Berry.
Good. Thank you very much. I'd like to bring to the committee the appointment of the Dean of the CUNY Law School. I'll read the resolution. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York approve the appointment of Mary Lou Bellick as the Dean of the CUNY School of Law, effective August 15th, 2016. Added compensation to be recommended by the Chancellor to the Board, subject to financial ability. Let me read an explanation as to why we think this is an important appointment. The search committee that was chaired by the Honorable Trustee Judith Gribbetts at the conclusion of an extensive national search recommended 4 finalists for the position of the Dean of the CUNY School of Law. The Chancellor is recommending Mary Lou Bellick as Dean. Ms. Bellick is currently the Dean of the University of Massachusetts School of Law. She previously spent 2 decades at the CUNY School of Law as Professor, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Associate Dean for Special Projects, and Interim Dean. Ms. Bellick earned an A.B. summa cum laude from St. Mary's College and a J.D. cum laude from the Harvard School of Law. Mr. Chairman, I present this as a resolution.
Thank you. I'd like to second the motion. Is there any comment or questions on the motion? If not, if you're ready for the question, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The resolution is unanimous.
Chair Schmidt, Chancellor Milliken, Trustee Gribbetts, trustees.
Trustee Foster.
First, I have to just say, every time you said Dean of the CUNY Law School, it took my breath away. I can't express how honored I am to be chosen to be the Dean of the nation's premier public interest law school. 30 years ago, I read about a new law school that CUNY was starting. It would be a law school that would create lawyers, not just teach law and produce scholarship. It would be a law school that would internalize its privilege and its responsibility to be public, to place an emphasis on creating justice-centered lawyers prepared to practice in the service of the public good and human needs, and to take their place as lawyers and judges and practitioners with a deep understanding of how precious the rule of law is and how critical equality and due process are to achieving a civil society. It was going to be a law school that would, in the great CUNY tradition, be about access to legal education for those for whom law school would otherwise be prohibitive, and access for those who would be the first in their families and their communities to not only think about going to law school, but to attend law school and graduate from it. It was going to be a law school that would turn its scholarly energies to discovering new paradigms and uncovering old canards that mischaracterize the realities of life for the other than the 1%. It was going to be a law school that would appreciate the responsibility that comes with the diversity it creates and build a school that creates a nurturing and welcoming environment for all its students to thrive. And it was going to be a law school that would integrate theory and practice, lifting the profession up instead of denigrating it. And then one day I got a phone call from the dean who said, "Would you like to come and teach?" And what I said to him, I'll repeat today, at the law school that if only I was smart enough, I would have created? Yes. And for 25 years, I had the privilege of working with an innovative and talented faculty and to learn from students who were deeply motivated to claim their place in their profession and to use the law to work for their communities. And then one morning, 10 years ago, I was making breakfast, and one of my then 15-year-old twin sons said, "Mom, what's up? You seem a little frazzled." And I said, "Well, I have a meeting with Chancellor Goldstein, and I think he's going to ask me to be the interim dean." And he knew how much that was going to mean to me. And he said to me, "Do you want some advice?" I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, tell him how humbled and honored you are and excited by the chance to lead the school you love almost as much as your family." don't be too perky. And don't wear clogs. 4 years ago, I seized the opportunity to use what I had learned in those 25 years to build the first public law school in Massachusetts and to create a path to pursuing justice for the citizens of Massachusetts. It's been quite a ride, but I'm here today to say I can't overstate how personally and professionally happy I am to be back at the school that stole my heart 25 years ago, to be part of building on its proud history, and to continue the work that Dean Anderson pursued to raise its profile and its stature and increase the impact that the school, its scholarship, and its graduates have on the city, the state, and the world. I want to thank you for this opportunity to continue to build what I think is a law school that started as a game changer and will be changing the game for the rest of its history. And not incidentally, I want to thank you for the opportunity to rejoin my husband and my family after 4 long years, and to live in the city that I love. Thank you.
That concludes our public business, so I declare this meeting adjourned.
Yes.